27 is not for the people or for the planet, but for the transnational corporations that have plundered the earth and the corrupt governments that support them. We live in a world where these corporations use these institutions like COP27, like the World Trade Organization, like the World Bank, like free trade agreements not only skirt accountability, but to actively attack land defenders and climate initiatives. We live in a world where Chevron is not only avoiding paying Ecuador $9.5 billion for their oil spills in the Amazon and damages to indigenous communities, but now they are countersuing Ecuador for loss of profit. And here in the U.S., just last year, TC Energy, based in Canada, is suing the U.S. for $15 billion of our tax dollars because we said no to Keystone XL. We said no permits for their dirty tar sands pipeline. But now they're saying it's their free trade right under NAFTA to poison our land and water. How can we live in a world where we have a right to profit, but not a right to life? Fuck that!
Fascism.
Okay, ready? Power to the people.
People have the power.
Power to the people.
People have the power.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Janet from Veterans for Peace.
All right.
Thank you. Could I ask you, with the great U.S. military money targets Earth defenders to come up? And where's Susan? I'd love to see Susan come up closer to me with this image of Alaa Abd El-Fattah. So last Thursday, prison officials told Alaa's family he had received, quote, medical intervention with the knowledge of a judicial authority, meaning force feeding or IV hydration. He has been on hunger strike for a long time and is near death. A huge crowd protested for his release outside of the walls of the COP27 buildings today. His family is demanding proof of his life. I ask us all to take a moment of silence and a deep breath as we remember political prisoner Alaa Abd El-Fattah, a British Egyptian software developer and writer. He is now in Tora prison, which is also called Snake Prison in Egypt. We call for Allah's freedom, and we call for the release of 60,000 Egyptian political prisoners. Egypt is a country supported by our tax dollars, over $1 billion every year for their military and police. Today, we stand with those protesters in Egypt. Free Allah! Free them all! Free Allah! Free them all! And all over the world. As a member of Veterans for Peace, I am speaking today about climate justice, human rights, and militarism. Veterans for Peace's demands include the requirement that military greenhouse gas emissions, long exempted from emissions reporting and ignored by the U.S. climate movement for the most part, finally be reported to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. And military funding, starting with the biggest one, that's us, and the military budget for next year is predicted to be $847 billion for 1 year, must be directed to climate mitigation projects. We here in Portland, Oregon, and all over the world, but especially in the global south, cannot adapt to starvation and extinction. As a member of Veterans for Peace, I serve on the National Climate Crisis and Militarism Project. We are busy during COP27. Just this last Thursday in San Francisco, Veterans for Peace joined Youth versus Apocalypse for the Stop the War, Save the Climate March, Rally, and Direct Action in San Francisco. In downtown San Francisco on Market Street, they shut down the Lockheed Martin offices for the day. And yesterday, at Miramar Air Force Base in San Diego, in Tucson, Chicago, Minneapolis, and at the State Department building in Washington, D.C., Veterans for Peace and allies hit the streets in more Stop the War, Save the Climate actions. In D.C., the veterans tweeted, as Biden, Blinken, and Kerry make speeches and empty promises at COP27, we're at the State Department on a lookout for climate leadership. Next week, more Stop the War, Save the Climate actions will take place at the UN headquarters in New York City and at the downtown Chase Bank in Boston. And in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, my colleague Cindy Piester is in the Green Zone, connecting with national delegates to COP and climate activists from all over. She's sharing our message that militarism fuels climate crisis and that climate justice includes the demands for an end to wars, especially U.S.-funded and directed wars, whether direct or proxy. We are engaged, and this action is definitely part of this, in a new framing of the climate crisis. I'll take a moment for this important announcement.
Public announcement.
I'm glad it's a green train that's going by us right now. So this new framing of the climate crisis moves the messaging away from inanimate gases and fuels, which frankly have dominated the discourse for too long, toward human, economic, and social institutions, including the dreaded institutions of war and the war industry, and U.S. foreign policy that backs dictators. What are the greenhouse gas emissions of funding dictators all over the world, I wonder?
Pretty high.
In the words of Alaa, we have not yet been defeated. We are going to show up, speak up, fight back, and win. I'll end with the words of Alaa's sister, Sanaa, at today's Solidarity protest. Your love has turned a moment of despair into one of possibility. When I return to Cairo to stand with my mother at the prison gates, the whole world knows you are all alongside me, shaking them loose. When I say climate justice, you say human rights. Climate justice!
Human rights!
Climate justice!
Human rights!
Thank you.
Woo!